Here is a number that should bother you. 2 retirees. Both start with $1 million. Both withdraw $40,000 a year, adjusted for inflation. Both earn the exact same average return over 30 years. One runs out of money in year 18. The other dies with more than they started with. The only difference between them is the order in which the returns happened. That is sequence of returns risk, and it is the single most dangerous concept in retirement planning that most people have never heard of. Let me show you why this matters. During your working years, the order of your investment returns is irrelevant. If you save $1,000 a month and the market goes up 7%, then down 10%, then up 24%, you end up with the same balance as if the returns happened in reverse order. You are buying shares every month. Dollar cost averaging smooths out the bumps. The average return is all that matters. Retirement flips that equation completely. Now you are selling shares every month to pay your bills. If the market drops in your first year of retirement, you are forced to sell more shares to generate the same $40,000. Those shares are gone forever. They never get to participate in the recovery. And because you have fewer shares left, your portfolio has less capital to compound when the market does bounce back. The damage is permanent. Here is the concrete math. Retiree A retires into a bear market. Years 1 through 5, the portfolio loses 10%, then 8%, then 5%, then gains 2%, then loses 3%. Years 6 through 30, the market delivers a steady 9% annual return. Retiree B has the opposite experience. Years 1 through 5, the market gains 9% every year. Then years 6 through 30, they get the same volatile sequence that retiree A experienced in the first 5 years. Same 30-year average return. Same starting portfolio. Same withdrawal amount. Retiree A runs out of money in year 18. Retiree B finishes with over $1.2 million. The only variable that changed was the order. This is why the safe withdrawal rate debate matters so much in 2026. Morningstar's latest research says the highest safe starting withdrawal rate for a 30-year retirement with a 90% probability of success is 3.9%. That is up from 3.7% last year, but still well below the classic 4% rule. Bill Bengen, the financial planner who created the 4% rule back in 1994, disagrees. He says 4.7% is safe for 30-year retirements based on his updated research. For early retirees facing 50-year horizons, the consensus among researchers like Wade Pfau and Big ERN is much lower, 3 to 3.5%. The difference between 3.9 and 4.7% on an $80,000 lifestyle is roughly $350,000 more you need to save. Same lifestyle, same retirement age, just different interpretations of the same data. And the reason the numbers are so different is that they are all trying to protect against the same thing, the risk that your first 5 years of retirement happen to be bad ones. Here is what has actually changed in 2026. The fixed income toolkit is dramatically better than it was 5 years ago. The 30-year Treasury inflation-protected security, or TIPS, auctioned in February 2026 at a real yield of 2.473%. That is the second highest real yield in 16 years. A TIPS ladder has zero sequence of returns risk. When you hold a bond to maturity, you get exactly what you signed up for. The market price fluctuates in between, but if you do not sell, the fluctuation does not matter. A well-constructed TIPS ladder at current yields can support a higher inflation-adjusted withdrawal than the 3.9% safe withdrawal rate benchmark, because the income stream has no sequence risk exposure at all. That is not a nuanced statement. It is the literal mechanics of how bond ladders work. The research consistently shows that flexibility is the single most powerful tool against sequence risk. The Guyton-Klinger guardrails approach is the best researched example. You set a target withdrawal rate, but you adjust it based on portfolio performance. If the portfolio has a good year, you give yourself a small raise. If it has a bad year, you cut spending by 10%. The guardrails prevent you from overspending during the fragile early years while letting you benefit when the market cooperates. Guyton-Klinger found that initial withdrawal rates of 5.2 to 5.6% become sustainable at the 99% confidence level when using these rules. That is a full percentage point higher than the base case, achieved entirely through flexibility. The cash bucket strategy is another proven approach. You keep 2 to 3 years of expenses in cash or short-term bonds. You withdraw from that bucket during market downturns, giving your equity portfolio time to recover before you sell anything. When the market recovers, you refill the cash bucket from your growth portfolio. This is not complicated. It is just a buffer that prevents you from being a forced seller at the worst possible time. There is also the rising equity glide path, popularized by financial planner Michael Kitces. Instead of reducing equity exposure as you approach retirement, you actually start retirement with a lower equity allocation, around 30%, and increase it to 60% over the first 10 to 15 years. The logic is counterintuitive but mathematically sound. By keeping less in stocks during the fragile early years, you reduce the damage if a bear market hits. As you age and your portfolio has had time to grow, you increase equity exposure to fund the longer remaining horizon. The data shows this approach can support higher withdrawal rates than a static allocation. Let me put these numbers in perspective with the long-term data. Over the past 97 years, a classic 60-40 portfolio returned 8.8% annualized with a maximum drawdown of 32.4%. The all-weather portfolio, with 30% stocks, 40% bonds, 15% commodities, and 15% gold, returned 7.4% with a maximum drawdown of only 18.7%. The trade-off is 1.4% lower annual return for dramatically less pain and a recovery that takes 213 fewer months. For a retiree in the fragile decade, that lower volatility can mean the difference between portfolio survival and depletion. Social Security timing is another powerful lever. Each year you delay claiming from age 62 to 70 increases your annual benefit by roughly 8%. That 77% increase in guaranteed lifetime income reduces the amount your portfolio must generate. Smaller portfolio withdrawals during the fragile decade means fewer shares sold at depressed prices. For a retiree with a modest portfolio, this arithmetic is decisive. If Social Security delay can reduce required portfolio withdrawals from 5% to 3%, the portfolio becomes a supplement rather than the primary income source. Sequence risk becomes less determinative of the overall outcome. Here is what this means for someone planning retirement in 2026. First, understand that the safe withdrawal rate is not a fixed number. It depends on your time horizon, your asset allocation, and most importantly, your willingness to be flexible. Second, the TIPS opportunity is real. If you are within 5 years of retirement, building a TIPS ladder at current yields is one of the best inflation-protected moves available. Third, build a cash buffer before you leave your job. Sizing the short-term bucket before you stop earning is considerably easier than doing it mid-drawdown. That is not an opinion. It is a liquidity fact. Fourth, consider a dynamic spending strategy rather than a fixed withdrawal rule. The research from Morningstar, from Guyton-Klinger, and from the Trinity study all points in the same direction. Retirees who adjust their spending based on market conditions can safely withdraw more over their lifetime than those who lock in a fixed percentage and never change it. The guardrails approach gives you the best of both worlds, a high initial withdrawal rate with a safety net that prevents you from depleting your portfolio during the fragile early years. Fifth, do not underestimate the value of tax diversification. Having money in Roth accounts, traditional accounts, and taxable accounts gives you the flexibility to choose which bucket to draw from each year based on market conditions and tax rates. In a down market, you can pull from your bond allocation or cash bucket rather than selling stocks at a loss. In a good market, you can rebalance by selling appreciated equities and refilling your cash buffer. This flexibility is itself a form of sequence risk protection. The most dangerous portfolio is not the one with the wrong allocation. It is the one you abandon during a bear market because you did not plan for the possibility that the bad years might come first. Sequence of returns risk is not a reason to fear retirement. It is a reason to plan for it. The tools exist. TIPS ladders, guardrails, cash buckets, rising glide paths, Social Security timing, tax diversification. The question is whether you use them before the fragile decade begins. The goal is not to predict the market. The goal is to build a plan that survives whatever order the market delivers. Because you cannot control the sequence of returns. But you can control whether that sequence determines your outcome.